Welcome to the podcast. So, I'd like to talk to you about a topic that I think is extremely important, but it's also one that's very near and dear to my own heart. Just thinking about the role that we play as parents in the development of our kids. The car ride home. After a game, your son or daughter gets in the car, maybe did not just win the championship, maybe did not just make 10 free throws in a row, maybe didn't hit the game winning shot, maybe wasn't perfect from the field, maybe didn't steal it every time. So they weren't perfect, right? So they made some mistakes. And then they get in the car and you're not happy with them. So you wait 2 or 3 seconds and then you just start telling them everything they did that was wrong. You didn't slide your feet, you didn't box out, why didn't you cut right there? And these are the things that maybe if you know basketball a little bit, come out of your mouth. And on the flip side of that coin, if you don't know basketball, you're angry at them for a bunch of things that maybe do or don't make sense, but you're mad and you take it out on them. And they're sitting there in the car, this little kid that looks up to you, that loves you, that needs you for warmth and support. This kid is maybe getting to the point where they're starting to feel sad, starting to feel frustrated, starting to feel a mix of emotions, maybe even to the point that tears start rolling down their cheeks because they're stuck in this car, and they're stuck in this car because they have no other way to get home. They can't drive themselves, right? So they're a kid in the car with you as their parent, mother or father, and you're reminding them of all the mistakes they made in the game, all the areas that were not perfect. And the thing is, that's not fun. That doesn't feel good. That's something that for sure, if that becomes a habit, they're leaving the game already starting to anticipate, oh man, I got in the car with mom or dad. I got to get in the car and get yelled at. I got to get in the car and hear about all my mistakes. And I think there's a fine line between tough love, honesty, but also being supportive and knowing that nobody's perfect. Everybody's going to make mistakes. The thing that's so special about basketball, and one of the things that I personally love, there is some math to it, but it's more like jazz, right? Every single game is so different. Every single game, based on the referees, based on the way somebody shoots or follows through, based on your opponents, based on the flow of a game, it's different, right? And so it's not every game is exactly the same. So there's going to be some good games, there's going to be some bad games. There's going to be some high scoring games, there's going to be some games where if you're a player, the basket just feels like this huge circle and everything goes in, everything goes your way. It just feels like you can get around your opponent every single time. There's going to be other games where you feel like you can't do anything right. That's from the perspective of a player. As a parent sitting there, what you should want is you should want your son or daughter, you should want your child to go as hard as they possibly can and to have fun. Honestly, if those two boxes are checked, then they're doing a great job because then they're doing something that they love. They're doing it with passion. They're trying really hard. And all the other stuff is just like jazz. There's going to be some times where it sounds like there's an instrument out of tune somewhere. Somebody's not playing on the right rhythm or beat. And that's important for us as parents to know that as long as your child loves what they're doing, they're trying really hard. Like if there's effort and they're trying really hard, we have to know that they're going to miss some shots. We have to know that maybe they're not perfect. And when I say maybe, we know that they're not perfect, right? So we have to know that they're going to make some mistakes. They're not perfect. They're going to make some late decisions or bad decisions. And that's for us to get in the car with them and to kind of give them a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a break to try to feel like, are they ready to talk about it? Are they emotionally able to start to reflect and get feedback? Should there be a period of time, whether you say until we get home or the next morning when we start to talk about the game? It depends a lot on their personality, but what shouldn't happen is get in the car and just immediately just start ripping into them about all their mistakes. So I don't think that kids, this is an opinion, I don't think that kids all deserve a first place trophy. I don't think that every kid is the MVP. I don't think that every kid is going to go on to be Steph Curry or Michael Jordan or whoever you think the best of the best is. So every kid is very different. Every kid develops at their own very special rate that can be stimulated. And then you start to get into the nature versus nurture and who maybe won the genetic lottery, right? Every kid develops very differently when puberty hits, but emotionally, they develop differently based on how they're wired, right? So I don't think every kid needs a participation trophy. I'm not saying that every kid should be told, as soon as you get in the car, you're the best ever, buddy. You know, like, I don't think you should lie to them. That's not what I'm saying at all. But the whole concept of the participation trophy has kind of put people a little bit into thinking that you just show up and it's a little bit like daycare. You just show up and you just play and everybody wins. You don't even keep score, it's just happy, right? I think there's that's one end of the spectrum. And on the other end of the spectrum, and there's pros and cons to both of these, but on the other end of the spectrum, you have people that think that you have to be the leading scorer or else you're not very good. You have to lead the team to the championship and be the number one player, or else, like there's a big gray area between both of those two very different extremes. And keeping in mind that kids develop differently, it's important that we support them along their own developmental path, right? At the end of the day, we all want to spend more time doing things that we enjoy. So think about the things that you enjoy as a parent, your mom, your dad, things that you enjoy. It might be watching your favorite TV show. It might be going to a professional sporting event. It might be hanging out with your friends that you haven't seen in a long time. It might be watching your kids be happy. It might be exercising. Whatever those things are that make you happy, there's something that your brain associates with that activity and it makes you feel good. It's like it releases a little bit of dopamine, right? It's like it feels really good in your brain. So if you want your kids to enjoy, and we're talking about basketball right now, but if you want your kids to enjoy anything, there has to be some type of good feeling that they get, that they feel, that they associate with that activity. So if the thing that happens immediately after a game is they get in the car, whether they won or lost, maybe they made shots, maybe they didn't, maybe they played good defense, maybe they didn't, but every single game they get in the car and you're angry at them and you're yelling at them about why they're not perfect, do you think that they're going to continue to look forward to playing basketball? Probably not, right? Like the old Pavlov experiment and teaching behavior and understanding how behavior can be associated with the anticipation of something that occurs because of some type of act that leads to that. So the behavior that you want to see from your kids is you want them to do things they love and to work really hard. So if they start to feel that they're getting in the car and they're getting yelled at every single time and it makes them sad, it makes them frustrated, they're going to start to not want to get in the car with you, but they have no choice. Or they're going to get to the point where they say, you know what, I don't even really like playing basketball that much anymore. Mom, can you sign me up for soccer? Can you sign me up for karate or football or anything else? Because this one clearly didn't lead to a good experience afterwards. I don't think that you need to take your kids to ice cream every single time. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I don't think you need to do it every time. What I think needs to happen is there has to be just a warm environment where they feel loved, where they feel cared for, where they feel support. Most kids are pretty excited to know that their parents are sitting in the crowd. Most kids feel safe to know that their parents are sitting in the crowd supporting them. I'm not saying that parents should be screaming and yelling at the referees. I'm not saying they should be screaming and yelling at the coaches or the players either, even if it's just their own kids. Sometimes you need to let the coach do the coaching and let the referees do the reffing. But to know that your parents are there, that they love you enough to be there is special. And there's kids out there whose parents aren't able to come see them play for whatever reason, and or there's only one parent in the household, and or a lot of worse situations where parents aren't able to go see the games. So it's already special that you're able to be there and support your kids. You want them to get in the car and to enjoy that time, to treasure that time. And you have to remember that this time can be gone in the blink of an eye. Not because of a tragedy, I don't want to get into anything like that, but just because they get older, they mature, they get older, time goes by, pretty soon they're out of the house and they're gone, right? And you'll look back and miss those memories nostalgically. You'll miss those memories. So you want those memories to be good memories, and you don't want them to have miserable memories of getting in the car with you after a game where they didn't do good. The vast majority of these kids that we're talking about, they probably spent some portion of their spring, summer, fall preparing for the basketball season. Maybe in the driveway, maybe doing skills clinics, maybe AAU, fall league scrimmages, all the above. It's a fun time of year. The actual basketball season is a really fun time of year. They're building relationships, the social aspect of it. They're learning cause and effect. They're learning so many different things that go way above and beyond just basketball, but they're learning at a very high rate and it's fun for them, right? They're competing together. They're learning how to compete against another team. There's fans, there's referees. It's exciting. And with the exception of very few situations, teams are going to lose some games. And like we talked about, players are going to miss some shots. There's going to be turnovers. There's going to be bad decisions all along the way. And as parents, we need to embrace the fact that sports They're full of success and failure. That's exactly what it is. And whatever professional team that you love in any sport, be that the Steelers, be that the Lakers, be that the fill in the blank, whoever you love, they're going to lose some games along the way. And your favorite player, and if your favorite player is LeBron James, there's going to be people that say LeBron James is the best ever. There's going to be people who say he sucks, right? So it's like those two extremes for this guy that goes out there night in and night out and tries as hard as he possibly can. So your son or daughter, if they love what they do and they're going out there trying as hard as they possibly can, what more could you ask for? Honesty is always the best way to communicate with them. There's no reason to sugarcoat anything, but harping on every single mistake and pushing them past the point of no return to get to a point where they no longer even love the game, that's not what any of us want, right? So what I'm asking of you as parents is just to really look in the mirror and consider what made you love the sport in the first place if you played. If back in the day you used to play basketball, what made you love it? What are your memories? What was most exciting? What are some things you miss? Right? What made you love it? And do you have any of those negative memories of, man, your coach was really hard on you and he yelled too much? Or, what were the negative parts of that? Was it running? Was it losing? So who knows, right? But we want to make sure that we provide our kids as positive of an environment as possible to make sure that the kids know that we also understand that this is really a game of peaks and valleys. There's going to be some highs. There's going to be some lows. There's going to be some great games that are super exciting and they win. There's going to be some games that are just heartbreakers where everything was going right. And at the very end, somebody missed a free throw or somebody didn't box out and they lost the game. And then we need to be there to provide a shoulder to lean on, a hug, some type of encouraging words. And there's other times where we need to make sure that we say, hey, buddy, if I know you're disappointed because you didn't make your free throws or you're missing your layups or your coach is yelling at you to use your left hand and you didn't trust it. So we need to be there to remind them about cause and effect. So if you work on that, so buddy, the more time you spend in the driveway, the better you'll be. Or the more you work on your shot, the more you'll be able to make those shots in games. We need to be there and be really positive with them to make sure that they understand that the harder they work, the better they'll be. But as a parent, I've constantly reminded myself to ask my kids after every single game, and my wife and I have 4 kids. After every single game, whatever it is that they're doing, we ask them, did you go hard? Second question, did you have fun and play with passion? If they answer those questions yes and yes, I'm okay. Do I want to win? Am I a competitive guy? Yeah, for sure. Do I want my kids to work as hard as they possibly can to put themselves in a situation where they can help their team have success? Absolutely. But who's going to do things that you don't love? Right? So earlier we talked about what are the things that you enjoy, be that exercise, hanging out with your friends, watching your favorite series, whatever that is. Whatever it is that you enjoy, on the other side of that, for sure, there's some things that you don't enjoy. And those things that you don't enjoy, and maybe that's work, maybe that's cleaning, maybe that's yard work, whatever that is, whatever you don't enjoy, you have to do it. But if you could choose, you'd choose something else, right? So there's things that you have to do and there's things that you want to do. And kids learn that through the course of life, through experience, through trial and error, just over time. We want them to want to work hard. We want them to want to have fun. So if basketball can be fun for them, like maybe you go out and you rebound for them, but maybe instead of yelling at them all the time, you give them some high fives and tell them good job and encourage them. Maybe you drive them to the park, maybe you drive them to the playground, but they can't start to immediately associate getting in the car with you after a game and all of a sudden they just start getting yelled at. I don't think kids need any extra pressure or stress. Now, I don't want to get into a deep conversation about when kids should have cell phones and technology and social media and all these different things, but they have enough pressure and stress on their own, and they don't need any extra from us. So again, like I said, this topic is near and dear to my heart because we do have kids, and what we want is we want our kids to constantly to work. We want them to try hard. We want them to learn a myriad number of life lessons through basketball, to put them in a situation where they have a lifelong association and passion and love for exercise, basically, right? Basketball keeps you healthy. Basketball introduces you to friends. Basketball introduces you to people from different backgrounds. And you never know where this beautiful game can take you. And I've talked a lot about how this can potentially help you get a scholarship someday, or how this can potentially show you the world, or how you can learn languages through basketball. And I'm living proof of a kid that never dreamed of all the amazing experiences I've been fortunate enough to have through this ball that's full of air. That's basically a game that kids play for free. That's fun to play this beautiful game. But it's amazing what the game can give you when you invest in it. And it's important that we help them develop a really, really healthy love for it. So they learn how to work hard and they learn how to triumph. They learn how to deal with adversity. They learn how to deal with heartbreak, and they learn how to work together towards a common goal with others. So from one parent to another, I'd respectfully like to remind you to take a deep breath on your own after games, to think twice before you say the first thing that's on your mind to your son or daughter after games. And to make sure that they know a couple different things. One, that they know that they're loved. They know that you support them, whether they win or lose. They know that you're there to help them, because sometimes they need you and they're going to want to talk, and sometimes they're going to be disappointed and frustrated and they're just going to be quiet and just sit there angry, right? Because some kids are extremely competitive and they're mad when they lose. So they're all very different. They develop at different rates. We as parents have to challenge ourselves to look in the mirror and make sure we're doing the best we can to give them what they need. And what's good for one of your kids might not be the right solution for another kid because they're different. But to make sure that the car is a safe place, to make sure that the car is not a dreaded place to go into after a game because you're disappointed in them. So let's make sure that we all, through the course of basketball season, support our kids, love our kids, do the best we can to support the team, support the environment, make it a positive environment. But when we get in that car, let's make sure that when they're ready to talk, that we're there to be a sounding board, but we have something positive to say, something encouraging to say, something to make sure that we stimulate some thought in their minds about what they could do better in a very positive way, instead of just harping on every last thing that they did wrong, where they get to the point where they don't even love the game anymore. Something to think about, something that's on my mind, something I wanted to share with you guys. Make sure your kids work hard. If they did that, fantastic. Make sure your kids love the game. Make sure they have fun. If they did that, fantastic. They'll keep coming back for more. Any questions, any thoughts, any comments, please leave them below. The more you comment, the more you like, the more that potentially this is seen by other parents, which can open up this conversation even further so we can help even more people and kind of gain more knowledge, because none of us as parents knows everything. Doesn't matter how many books you read or how many books you've read. Each child provides us different challenges to learn, to grow, to be better. And for sure, that's what we want from them. But when you're looking in the mirror, I want to remind you, no matter how good or bad you ever were as a player, your kids aren't necessarily a reflection of that. If you're in the Hall of Fame somewhere, great. Congratulations. Your kids might not be in the Hall of Fame someday. Maybe you weren't any good. Maybe you weren't good at all, but you love the game. You like to watch the game, or you had fun playing at recess, and here your kids come to find their way to basketball, and it turns out they're really good. Great. They should work hard. They should love it. It's not a reflection of you and your past glory or your past failures. Help them along their path. Something I've learned from my own experience is that when I go to see one of my kids play a sport other than basketball that maybe I don't know that much about, after the game, it's super easy for me to be like, great job. I remember one time after my daughter's lacrosse game, I told her, fantastic, that was great. Do you have fun? You did a really good job out there. And I remember like seeing my wife out of the corner of my eye, and she was like, as if like, like maybe it wasn't the best game ever. Maybe she made a bunch of mistakes. But in my mind, because I don't know anything about lacrosse, I was like, man, that was great. It looks like you had a blast. Good job running around and hitting people with a stick and trying not to get hit with a stick. That was great. So it's very easy for me to be positive because I didn't know that much about it. Whereas I'm going to be honest, when I'm watching any of my kids play basketball, I've learned a little bit about the game over the years, playing and coaching. So there's some details that I see that maybe they don't yet understand. It's hard for me sometimes to watch them make a bunch of different mistakes, but I got to remind myself, hey, this is their path. They're learning. When they're ready, we'll talk about it. When they're ready, we'll work on it. When they're ready, we'll watch video on it, whatever the case may be. But when they get in that car, I want it to be fun for them. I want to be very honest. I want them to know that we love them no matter what. And that's the most important thing. Make sure they work hard, make sure they have fun. Again, please comment, please like, please share. And if you have any suggestions for future topics, please leave that down below too, because we plan on diving into a lot of different areas. Come get some.